I'm Nadia Tatlow, and I'm the CEO of Shift.
I'm Jeanette Dorazio, CEO of Lead Pages.
I'm Barbara Berry, and I'm the CEO at Delivra.
In my career, I have worked with, been around many powerful women in the C-suite. And what I always admired about them is their servant leadership style. And they were always focused on the team and building the team. That made a big impact on me early in my career because that's what I wanted to be like.
So I did not have any women in leadership positions when I was early in my career. But I was lucky enough to have a boss who was a mentor, who actually coached me and mentored me and helped grow me into the leader I am today. So I feel very lucky about that. But I do feel like a lot of women don't ever encounter that type of a mentor. And so if you don't have women that are able to coach and mentor you, you're kind of stuck sometimes and you're unable to grow into those positions.
When I started out my career, I was in marketing, and there were a lot of women in marketing and leading agencies, and I found, there's no shortage of leadership or owners in that industry. But moving into tech, I definitely noticed the gap, and especially when you look at CEOs, C-level, founders, entrepreneurs, and really the people owning the cap table. I noticed that gap right away, and I think the power structures in tech have a long way to go. What I really noticed around that was that the women, often you hear about the number of women and the progress in bringing in more women or more people of diversity, but you really have to look at the distribution of women, so the type of roles that they're in. And I think, the area that, or the thing that struck me the most, and that has kind of, I think, stuck with me is just looking at how women are often drawn to or put into the supporting roles. So often you'll see the HR department, the administration roles, really important roles, and often in the C-suite or in higher level, but not necessarily, those kind of key decision makers for the core business.
I didn't like the power structures I saw early in my career. I think that's what distressed me the most, is it was very hierarchical in nature. There was always men sitting in those power structures. A lot of what I saw too, if I was in a meeting, is that women or people of color, diversity, would be in the tables around. They didn't have a seat at the table, and I didn't like that. I never liked that. So what I did as I was evolving in my career is I vowed to change that. And it's not as simple as, hey, you have a flat organization necessarily, but it's welcoming people and giving them the space to have a voice. And fortunately for me, I've been able to change that. A lot of people didn't like it. I've had instances where that wasn't accepted. They didn't understand that. In some cases, I didn't get some opportunities because I was like that. But as I grew in my career, I vowed a personal vow to myself to change that. And what that does for me personally, it makes me a better leader. The team is more effective because everybody has their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, thinking about power structures early in my career, I definitely was very aware of them, like Jeanette also mentioned. I think coming in as a young person in tech, and a woman especially, I was very aware of sort of this tightrope that I was walking of, I think, the expectations of being cheerful and friendly, and a lot of the expectations that I think get put on women especially, in terms of the way we show up at work, but then also the equal expectation to deliver and perform all the duties of your work just like anyone else. So fixing the window dressing and building awareness and education is probably number one, but actually figuring out those, tactical things that we can implement in the policy change that we can put in place is the most important. And until then, I think maybe having more of us aware, I think women go into the workplace hyper aware of what those power structures are, and maybe raising awareness among everyone in the workplace of that dynamic really helps, just so that we can build more allies in the community.
It starts from the top. And so a lot of times companies talk about gender equality and equity, but they don't necessarily practice that within their own organizations. So for example, when it's an opportunity to do a promotion, it's promoting the person who's closest to them, which is not typically a woman. And not even letting other people within the organization know that there's an opportunity for promotion or that the position is even open and available. So I think it starts from the top. I think that there are opportunities within recruiting. If you think about internships and entry-level positions, those are key positions where the business is actually investing in growing a person. And then lastly, I think there's an opportunity to invest more within the community. So go to the schools and try to encourage women to get into tech and to join your company.
I'm aligned with what you said, and absolutely 100%. It starts from the top. We need to keep raising our voices. It's not going to be a one and done type of situation.
I totally agree. It's like we need to bring women into tech, and then we need to retain them. I think where you see women leaving is actually mid-career.
Yeah.
And I was reading a stat recently that women leave tech at a rate like 40% higher than men due to cultural reasons. And I think you could sum up the cultural reasons to often just not having that sense of belonging,
right?
And feeling that you're kind of hitting a wall. But I think what a lot of women feel is that they're just simply being tolerated. You're not, in with the in crowd where you're hearing about the promotions and you're hearing about the advancement, and it's exhausting to keep banging the drum, and it's energy that we don't have when we're in senior positions because we're busy doing the duties of those. So I think as much as we focus on bringing women in, we need to think about how we keep them. And I think again, it's what you said through policy changes and things like proper parental leaves and benefits for families, and making sure that kind of the whole woman or the whole person is taken care of, if you really feel strongly about diversity in your workplace.
Don't take the first position offered to you. Make sure that it's the right fit for you, and it's going to be with a company that invests in you and will really give you the opportunity to learn and make mistakes. If there's anything about that company, either during the interview process or the technology they're using or how they interact with you, if anything doesn't feel right, walk away. Really take your time, be confident. Jobs are out there. Don't rush into your first job that's offered to you. That would be my advice.
I agree with that 100%. So it's all about networking, building those relationships. What I realized is that it opened doors that I didn't know exist, or opportunities I didn't know existed.
Totally agree. Like connecting with people, I think maybe that is the best piece of advice. Like I know when you're starting out and you're looking at companies and websites, it's also anonymous and foreign, and everything looks kind of fancy on a job website, I guess. But it's really hard to get an authentic vibe and understand what's behind that. Connecting with people, and then I think really going with your gut in terms of like where you end up. And then on exactly what Barb said, I think on the flip side, when you're there and you get a bad feeling, and trust your gut equally. Yeah. Like don't overstay when you know something's off, or you see behaviors or politics or cultural issues. Again, trust your gut, because as scary as it is, I think you have two choices. You either confront those issues like head on, and I know that's especially challenging when you're early on in your career and you don't think it's your place or whatever. But either address them head on and then decide once you see what the response is, or leave, because the real cost is your opportunity, your time, your opportunity cost. So on both sides, like, go where you connect, and then where you see misalignment, like, cut the cord.
I'm a firm believer in you have to be happy. And so I give it 6 months. However, I've had situations where I did quit, and it's because of either treatment or something that time doesn't really fix that. So for as an example, I remember this is the first time I quit a job because I was mad, but I took the time to find a better one. But I had worked like 2 years getting a customer that nobody wanted to take care of, to a certain point where I'd be able to do a new system for them and build a new system. And then I went out on maternity leave. And when I came back, and we all know back then maternity leave was not real great, right? But when I came back, that project was given to someone else who threatened to quit if he didn't get it. And I was given another crappy customer. And so I thought, if that's the way this boss is going to treat me, then I need to find something else, because that's not going to change over time, right? But I really believe that, you have to be happy as a person, that have to be happy at work. And if work is, 6 months of unhappiness where, you can't find any excitement or enjoyment during a 6-month period, it's probably time to move on.
Seeing technology evolve and being part of that. Yes, we talk about the barriers to women in tech, but for me, it's been just being part of the ride for the last 20 plus years or so, and seeing how it's not only evolved, but how fast it's evolving, and seeing more women interested in tech. There's been a lot of times in my career where I'm the only woman at the table, in meetings, in strategic meetings. So it's nice to see that more of them are there, and that they're not afraid of it and they like tech.
So I have 2 things that I find really rewarding. The first is I'm constantly learning. You never really get stagnant, and it's really great because there's always something to learn. The other thing is I love mentoring young women. And so bringing them in as product managers and teaching them about the business. And it just gives me such a great feeling to be able to help them out and get them started.
I get bored really easily, and I've never been bored in tech.
Same.
So, I've never felt like there's this redundancy or this repetitiveness. It's always changing. It's moving so fast. You're like clinging onto the train to keep up. There's endless opportunity because we have so far to go to bring women into tech and actually accelerate and level the playing field, I guess. So things can only get better if we are all, kind of looking at rebuilding the system beneath us. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and the more we can bring diversity into the fold, like to think that we've gotten this far with such a lack of diversity. Mm-hmm. Imagine what we can do when we bring in, more women, more people of color, more diversity. Like, it's only going to get better because that's who we're serving.